So I'd like to open the budget meeting. I'd just like to also make the community aware that we've had staff working, very large hours, and we were here as a council last night. So we're actually going to adjourn the budget meeting to get some more papers and make sure everyone is on top of those, and then we will conduct the budget meeting this afternoon. So
papers have been distributed now.
yeah, but obviously a chance for all councillors to read them.
Yeah.
So we will be coming back once that happens. Do we have a time?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. So it'll be 4 o'clock. Okay, and I'll adjourn this budget meeting. Okay, we will continue the budget meeting at 5:37 p.m. And thank you, councillors, for your attendance, and also welcome the gallery here today for the budget meeting. Okay, so we'll start off with item 3.1, Statement of Estimated Financial Position 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the Statement of Estimated Financial Position for the previous financial year 2020-21 be received and its contents noted.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, page 11, item 3.2, Adoption of the Budget 2021-22. I would like to move that pursuant to section 169 and 170 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council's budget for the 2021-2022 financial year, incorporating the Statement of Financial Position, the Statement of Cash Flow, the Statement of Income and Expenditure, the Statement of Changes in Equity, the Long-Term Financial Forecast, the Revenue Statement, the Revenue Policy, an assessment of budget activities to determine... I'll start again on that line. An assessment of business activities to determine if they meet the threshold for classification as a significant business activity. The next one is relevant measure of financial sustainability, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges levied for the financial year compared with the rates and utility charges levied in the previous budget, estimated activity statement and supplementary rates and charges rebate and concession policy, and supplementary capital and one-off projects, and draft rationale for the budget from Mayor Golder as table be adopted as Council's budget rationale.
So there's some amendments there, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So also, where are all the amendments? Those ones? Also some amendments to be included, page 48.
In the revenue statement.
In the revenue statement, brackets 3.0, an updated financial year from 2021-22 to updated from 2021 to 2022. Page 41, last paragraph, 10.1.2, updated financial year from 2020-2021 to 2021-2022. Page 43, 11.1, in brackets 3, Roman numerals, place a comma rather than a dot in the second figure quoted, i.e. 408,204 in brackets. Page 47, in brackets 1.0, 0, amend the State Government Department to the Department of Resources. Page 35, in brackets 3.4, remove the word hundreds. Page 47, add a paragraph. The above is not intended to be an exhaustive list. Council may consider other factors on a case-by-case basis. Page 58, brackets 8.1, amend from the Department of Communities, Disability Services and Seniors to the relevant state government department. And then those ones there. Paragraph 2, remove
This
the
is
word.
for the draft rationale.
Draft rationale. Paragraph 2, remove the words of our, and paragraph 2, instead of the most heavily affected categories, this will be changed to all categories.
And if there's any consistency, Mr Mayor, in what was read out versus what on the screen with the years, you're happy for us to defer to what's on the screen?
Correct. Yep. And as table be adopted. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion? I certainly will. I think it's an exciting era, even though we've got an enormous amount of challenges with COVID, which really I would label this COVID budget. With many challenges, we also have hopefully a bright future for the Maranoa. So also believe it's an exciting time for Maranoa Regional Council and the great people of Maranoa Regional Council, that council will go on a journey of working to be the most efficient we can, learn from the people delivering for council and working with local business and all the stakeholders, as well as the great people of the Maranoa. So I'm certainly supporting this budget and believe it's a very positive for the people of the Maranoa. Does anyone wish to speak against the budget? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to speak against it. I will be voting against this motion, as I don't believe this is the budget to move the Maranoa forward. As with any business, council needs revenue which we get from rates. Scenario G that is being voted on today is not the one to go forward with. We have been alerted to the government regulations that state if the value of the land changes under the Land Valuation Act, the local government must adjust the rates so the rates are calculated on the new value of the land. I don't believe Scenario G meets that legislative requirement. We are not setting the rates against valuation. Once again, we are devaluing valuation. Scenario G gives us a rates freeze, which we, the Maranoa, cannot afford. With the new valuations you received, you would expect your rates are going to align with your valuation, either up or down, but you would expect some movement. I don't pretend to sit here and know the answers. I definitely don't know enough about rates, but we do have someone in the room that does. Director Sharon has presented all that we have asked of her and more. So why is it when our director comes to the table and gives us her expertise, knowledge, governance and an alternative, we say thanks but no thanks? The budget also cuts 8.7 million from expenditure, 15% from materials and services, which I believe is the day-to-day operation expenditure of council, 5% from projects, which will probably mean roads. I know that costs should be looked at with any organisation and we can always do better, but because we actually can't afford the rates freeze, we have to find 20% savings from material and services and projects. I agree and I have had input on the projects moving forward, but the budget as a whole cannot have my vote. You can dress this up however you like, but this is a rate freeze the Maranoa cannot afford. You can say it is due to COVID, but is it? Or are we just ticking the box for the Unity Maranoa?
Does anyone wish to speak for the budget, or for the motion, I should say? Councillor Guthrie.
Earlier tonight, I seconded the adoption of a corporate plan, and I'm very, very mindful that one of the strategic priorities is to deliver a strong financial management. It's about making responsible decisions about both revenue setting and expenditure commitments in the short term so that current and future councils can have a secure financial future and the region has an affordable range of services. I believe that this budget will be achieving all of those particular goals. I believe that people are very, very mindful at this particular point of having rates that are affordable, expenses that are affordable, and I believe that the surplus that we will deliver will enable us to move forward.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
It is with disappointment that I'll be voting against the second budget of this term of council. Once again, it was frustrating that there was no room for negotiation, that council could get to a point where all councillors could endorse the budget. In my opinion, this budget is unethical, not open and transparent, and is not financially sustainable for the Maranoa. On paper, it might look like it is financially sustainable, but the methodology which has been used to get to these numbers on the budget papers and rate notices is not open and transparent and are not in line with the Local Government Regulation 2012, which states in Chapter 4, Rates and Charges 74.1, a local government must calculate the rates for land by using the rateable value of the land. Council has not used valuations to deem the rates. They have used what the ratepayer paid last year. I don't believe it is ethical or open and transparent to set a rate in the dollar with the intent that the ratepayer won't pay that rate. The rate in the dollar, according to the revenue statement in last year's budget, for the category rural larger than 80 hectares was 0.00617,984. The rate in the dollar for this category, for this budget, is 0.01483,164, which is an increase of 140% for this category. This is a huge increase in the rate in the dollar that council would not expect the ratepayer to pay if the capping wasn't applied to the rates. You'll find those figures in the revenue statement that's available online and then in this budget. In my opinion, this budget is too high risk. Councillors, we have heard of the risks associated with this budget from our officers. These risks simply can't be ignored. Actually, I am not sure how a councillor who has read the Local Government Regulation 2012, Chapter 4, Rates and Charges, Part 1, Preliminary, 71, 72 and 74, and the commentary, which is the General Legal Advice Section 116, Limitation of Increase in Rates or Charge Levied, which has been provided to council on several occasions, could vote in favour of this rating scenario. This rating scenario disregards the valuations that have been set by the state government and is setting rates on the amount a ratepayer paid last year. This means that every ratepayer will pay the same as they did last year. So therefore, if the valuation of a property has gone up, you won't have a rate increase, which is fine, unless you have a valuation which has gone down, and then you won't have a rate decrease in line with your valuation decrease that you would expect. So essentially, the ratepayer who should have got a decrease in their rates because their valuation has decreased are paying more, so that the ratepayers whose valuations have gone up don't have to pay according to their valuation. Essentially, robbing Peter to pay Paul. I think this is an unethical way to set rates. It is also not right to have properties whose category and valuations are the same pay different amount of rates, sometimes double what other ratepayers in the same category and with the same valuation are paying. Actually, some of the ratepayers will be paying more rates than someone who has a higher valued property to them. This is not fair and equitable across the category. Council simply can't afford to have what is deemed a rate freeze, which is not a true rate freeze because the valuations have changed. Proof of this is the fact that to achieve a surplus, the Mayor has had to cut 15% of the materials and service budget and 5% of the capital expense budget, which in essence is just moving figures around on a piece of paper to achieve the outcome of a surplus because it is not based on actual figures. This is simply playing with the numbers to make it look like there is a responsible surplus, when in reality, if the efficiencies can't be met, and we have heard from the officers that there is in fact areas of materials and services, essentially our operating budget, where it can't be reduced. For example, asking Ergon Energy for a 15% reduction on our power bill and a 15% reduction on our state government waste levy, which is a set amount. Since this is unachievable expectation, council may find themselves in a situation where they have a negative budget, or in a situation where they are having to cut projects or services to communities because council has simply run out of budget. Also, if council is talking about efficiencies, we should start at the top. How can we expect our staff to find 20% efficiencies when we as council don't adhere to the same expectation? For example, awarding tenders that are well over the officer's recommendation. I am, however, excited that I have had the opportunity to have input into endorsing the list of projects that will enhance the livability of the region if this budget is endorsed today. Julie, thank you to your officers who worked tirelessly throughout this budget process. My decision to vote against the budget is by no means a reflection on the amount of work that you and your officers have provided. The amount of information and reports that you provide to us as councillors. You and your officers have been very thorough with providing councillors with all the information, recommendations and legislation to make an informed decision. I am very concerned about the impact of this budget will have on the future of Maranoa's financial sustainability. Therefore, impacting future councils and having the potential in forcing them to make extremely hard decisions, such as having to increase rates, which would have a serious negative impact on the ratepayer. I believe small increments of increase is much easier for ratepayers to meet than a massive rate increase in any one year. I implore you, fellow councillors, to think about the legacy this council will leave the future of the Maranoa region. When you don't increase rates and then you cut the budget by 20%, yet employ 8 directors, I believe the only outcome will be loss of services to the Maranoa community. This is simply not acceptable, and on this basis, I cannot support this budget.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
Today will be the 10th budget as a councillor of the Maranoa Regional Council, and as I shared in my speech last year, in every election I've stood for, I campaigned on a number of priorities, always with the goal of securing a long-term future for our region. The future of the Maranoa communities are reliant on long-term vision to ensure the next generation can too call this place home. My opposition on the budget table for consideration is by no means a reflection on the power of work undertaken by the staff in drafting the many versions of the 2021-22 budget. My opposition is also no reflection of the many good projects and initiatives that are presented as part of the 21-22 budget. In fact, I want to thank the officers for their free and frank and impartial advice that has formed the budget deliberations over the past few months. I appreciate the professional standard in which councillors have been fully informed of the impacts of the budget scenarios that were presented to council. For me, I know I'm making a fully informed decision when I vote on this budget. Our role as a councillor is underpinned by 5 principles. A, being transparent and effective processes and decision-making in the public interest. B, sustainable development and management of assets and infrastructure and delivery of effective services. C, democratic representation, social inclusion and meaningful community engagement. D, good governance of and by local government. And E, ethical and legal behaviour of councillors and local government employees. These are the principles that I and everyone here signed on to when we took our oath of office last year. Principles A, B and D were the specific principles highlighted in a recent dismissal of a complaint that I received by the Office of Independent Assessor, a complaint that accused me of breaching the confidentiality of a recent budget special meeting. In my remarks on that day, I did disclose that the preferred scenario was not consistent with the Council Officer's recommendations, and that in my view there were risks attached to it, and that there had been an offer by Council Officers to do a risk analysis to achieve the majority preferred outcome. The ruling that was my articulation of those concerns, risks, is consistent with the local government principles in Section 4.1 of the Act to ensure the system of local government is accountable, effective, efficient and sustainable, and in Sections 4.2a, b and d of the Act, namely transparent and effective processes and decision-making in the public interest, sustainable development and management of assets and infrastructure, and delivery of effective services, and good governance of and by local government. It is these principles that I look at when I make my decisions as one vote in this chamber. It is these principles that ensure we are giving our community the best chance of success. It is because of these principles that I cannot support this budget. As I've already stated, I know that there are some important projects in this budget. There are roads to be maintained and upgraded. There are investments into key community groups that are the cornerstone of our region. There are upgrades and maintenance of council's facilities to ensure we continue providing them for our communities. It is, however, the rating scenario that I find myself objecting to. Last year's, in my view, reckless undertaking to reduce rates for some has meant that they are paying rates that predate 2002. That is unacceptable. That is not a rate freeze. That is putting council's long-term fiscal outcome into real doubt. For me personally speaking, what I experienced was a reduction of 25% or $340 for the year. Across 2 rate notices, that's $170. Broken down over 52 weeks, it was $6.50. I can see for many that is a lot of money. And having a growing family myself, I count every dollar and manage my spending. My concern then is it's a short-term sugar hit when we missed the opportunity to pool my $340, my neighbours and their neighbours, so on and so forth, to pool the resources to make solid investment decisions into projects for our communities. Long-term investment to ensure my kids have an opportunity to call Roma home. Of course, that was last year and it's done and dusted. The resetting of the rates that Unity Maranoa changed to from a rate freeze after being elected was achieved. 2021 is a new budget and a new opportunity for this council to show the leadership our community needs if we're going to secure a future for all of our communities that we call home and a chance for the next generation to want to stay or to come back. For many years, I've sought counsel from previous mayors and councillors that made up the pre-amalgamated councils. The feedback to me has been clear and consistent. Holding rates one year will need to be rectified in another. This year I advocated for a 1.48% rise. If supported, it would have been one of the lowest in the state. In fact, CPI announced for this quarter today is averaged at 3.8%. A modest increase of 1.48% would have illustrated to the other tiers of government that we are willing to back ourselves and be a true partner in providing for our communities and their needs. This modest increase would have tightened the operating deficit modelled and worked somewhat to balancing the long-term forecast for Maranoa Regional Council. Unfortunately, that is not what's being proposed today, and it's clear it will ultimately be supported by the majority in this chamber. The proposed budget will on paper show an operating surplus only. In reality, the blanket 20% reduction to materials and services originally proposed, and now the 15% reduction to materials, services and 5% on capital projects is unrealistic and in fact is setting up the staff to have to come cap in hand to a council meeting seeking more financial resources. This simply does not meet the principles of good governance or sustainable development of assets and infrastructure. Now, I recognise the Mayor has a 2/3 voting block in this chamber, and I respect the room has alternative perspectives to what I bring to the table. But this will never stop me from raising the views so many in the that views of so many in the community. At the end of the day, I'm here to represent the community that has put me here for 10 budgets. Serving the people of the Maranoa on the Maranoa Regional Council is truly one of the most humbling experiences of my life, and I'm committed to ensuring that I leave MRC and the region in a better place than when I started. Regrettably, I find myself in the same position for a second year, and I will be exercising my vote in opposition to this budget.
Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to point out the situation with the rates came about approximately 5 years ago when we had some very serious changes in the unimproved values of properties. Some went up side by side, went up higher than the property side by side. Capping was introduced, was the only way we could control the increase in rates. And this has happened 2 or 3 times or 4 times now. So this time I believe we're going about it the right way, and throughout the year, before the next budget, we will be doing a major overhaul review of rating categories to try and get everyone back on the same equal level playing field.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McMullen, Councillor Edwards.
I'll certainly be supporting it. I think this is a fantastic, plus a positive, plus a transparent situation here with the budget surplus. The approach this year is a different model rather than the old model of the past. And I look forward to its implementation and working with the Maranoa Regional Council staff in the next 12 months and beyond. I see this as a bottom-up approach where the foundations of the Maranoa Regional Council are made stronger, providing certainty for the community. I certainly don't agree with a lot of things that have been said here on the opposing side, and at times I think that, obviously there's different opinions, but sometimes I just don't think that people understand what we're actually trying to do here. We will see a large structural change, and together with a different approach to this budget, with efficiencies and productivity increases, I want to make the Maranoa region a more prosperous place for the community. I'd also join in thanking the CEO and directors and staff for everything they've done too. Thank you very much.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, I'll just sum up. I'd like to sum up on a few points. As it's been said, there's going to be, if this is passed, a major review of the rating categories in light of some significant movements. And I don't believe the rating categories, I do believe that there is issues there, and that will be in time for the next budget. One of the things that I'd like to correct is that all rates are set on valuations. So that is completely wrong, that when you get your rates notice, you will see the valuation on it, and it's been calculated on that. Also, what is in there, which is a legal mechanism, is capping. Capping is a legal mechanism that is used, and it is rubbish to say that you can't use capping, and capping can be used and has been used in this budget. One of the other issues as well is I do not believe in that mindset that everyone has to pay more every year. I do not agree with that. Before council looks at being the most efficient than it can be. So first, and I think it was disappointing and saddening that nothing was explained about the 20%, as if it was, I think the quote was that the mayor had to shift this to pay for a rates freeze, and there's been enough briefing of councillors to know that's not true. So the efficiency is the mechanism is about actually working with the people that to deliver our projects to be more efficient. And when council has found all the efficiencies that we can, which is the reason that we don't put rates up, then there will need to be rates increases. But I don't believe, and I'm certainly not a councillor that will be on council that always thinks that residents need to pay more. I don't agree with that concept. I've never agreed with it. I believe that council needs to be the most efficient it can be, and when there is no other ways of making savings, then there will have to be a rates increase. And one of the other issues that has been brought up here is about transparency. We have had more special meetings, more briefings, more special meetings, and in those special meetings we've looked at different scenarios. I'm very comfortable with the fact that we are fitting inside the Local Government Act. We're also using the mechanisms at our disposal, and we are dealing with a COVID year where we're having major changes that are changing because of COVID. And, you know, one of the things when you change rating categories, you've got to go out and consult. So that will happen in the next year. And I do believe that I'm standing up for the people of the Maranoa. I'm not standing up for personal views. I'm not standing up for personal interest. And I'm certainly not someone that believes people should pay more. And I don't agree with being put into this place to decide that. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, page 125. Item 3.3, debt borrowing policy.
I'll move the council adopt the debt borrowings policy for 2021-22.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, item 3.4, page 131. Item 3.4, differential general rates categories and descriptions 2021-2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council 1 pursuant to section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the categories into which rateable land is categorised, the description of these categories and pursuant to section 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the method by which land is to be identified and included in its appropriate category below, and 2, delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power pursuant to section 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the rating category to which parcel of rateable land belongs.
Reference the tables, or how can we do that?
As listed or
As tabled.
as tabled in the open report.
Please don't read all of that out.
The word open was
We have a seconder. Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.5, differential general rates 2021-2022. Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 80 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rate to be made, and levied for each different general rate category. And pursuant of section 77 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the minimum general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category as be set out in the table below. That's him.
And there's just a couple of wording changes, Councillor Ladbrook, if you're happy. I think that there was a different rather than a differential, and pursuant to section 77 and as set out in the table below. You happy just to defer to what's on the
Yes, I am.
screen?
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? No one wishes to speak. We're going to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Item 3.6, setting the limit of increase in the amount of general rates 2021-22. I'd like to move that Council, as required by section 172, brackets 2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, but subject to paragraphs A to E below, records that pursuant to section 116 of the Local Government Regulation, the amount of the differential general rate to be levied for the 2021-22 financial year on the categories of land identified in the table below be limited to the amount no more than an amount equal to the amount of the general rate levied on that land in the previous financial year, increased by the percentage identified in table 1 below.
Are you happy to defer with what's on the screen?
Yeah, I'm happy to defer what's on the screen. So 151, 152. Do we list the page or, so we got some more there, have we?
More wording.
Okay, so we've got the table which I have listed, said on page 151, 152, 153. And there's some more wording on part of the motion. The limitations of the increase to the differential general rate will not apply to land where A, there has been a change in valuation other than the revaluation in the entire local government area during the current or previous financial years, or B, there has been a change in land area during the current or previous financial year unless that change is a result of the council or state government entity acquiring by agreement or compulsory acquisition part of a parent parcel, thus creating a new rateable assessment, in brackets, the original parcel less the part acquired, in which case a limit on any increase will continue to apply to the new rateable assessment, or C, a discount valuation under Chapter 2, Section 50 of the Land Valuation Act 2010 has ceased, or D, there has been a change in the differential rating category of the land during the 2021-22 financial year, or E, the differential rating category of the land in the 2020-2021 financial year changes in the 2021-22 financial year. For the land on which rates levied for the previous financial year was for a period less than the full year, the differential general rate for the previous year will be annualised, and the limitation applied to the annualised amount in accordance with section 116 brackets 2, B, 2, like Roman numerals 2, of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? For or against? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on to 3.7, water utility charges 2021-2022. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that, one, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make the levy water utility charges for the supply of water services by Council as set out in table below. And 2, pursuant to Section 102.2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a water meter is taken have been read during the period that starts 2 weeks before and ends 2 weeks after the day on which the meter is actually read.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.8, 166, sewerage utility charges 2021/2022. Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy sewerage utility charges for the supply of sewerage services by the Council as set out in the table below. That's it.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, item 3.9, waste management utility charges 2021-22. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that, 1, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services, including the collection, removal, storage and disposal of general waste by the Council as set out in the table below. And 2, waste management utility charges are levied on all premises where Council's agent is prepared to provide a refuge collection service. A minimum of 1 charge will be made and levied on each separate occupancy, and such a charge shall apply whether or not the service is rendered.
Just one word change there to refuse.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. The mover and seconder happy with that one word? Okay, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.10, pest management special rate 2021-22. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate as follows. Should I read that? Yeah, I'm happy to. Pest management special rate A, a special rate can be known as the pest management special rate of 0.000012355 cents in the dollar on unimproved capital value of the rateable land to which the overall plan applies to fund the cost of pest management, including pest animals and pest plants across the Maranoa. B, the overall plan of the pest management special rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of pest animals and pest plants management across the Maranoa, including meat and factory baits for 2 coordinated wild dog baiting programs and ad hoc baiting, wild dog bonus payments for scalps and the treatment of high priority pest plants in accordance with Council's pest management plan. B, the rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as Category 39, rule less than 80 acres in the 2021-22 financial year, greater than, sorry.
Greater than or equal to.
Yeah, sorry, you know.
Hectares.
Hectares, not acres.
I won't go into it. C, the estimated cost for carrying out the activities subject to the overall plan is $574,000. The pest management special rate will levy an estimated $297,000 towards a total estimated cost of carrying out the activity. And D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specifically benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide management of pests, both animal and plant, so it is to improve the agricultural activities on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders.
Just one word change there with the specially.
Specifically.
Yeah.
Did I say specifically? I think I had the blurry section of my glasses down, sorry.
And can we do that?
Sorry, Kel. Especially sorry.
Yeah, but it's a fees and charges, isn't it? So we can still by resolution, just by any time like this.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Just making sure.
Yep. Righto, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? All those in favour? 9-0. Page 183, 311, State Government Precept, Special Rate, 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate as follows. State Government Precept Special Rate. A special rate to be known as the State Government Precept Special Rate of 0.00017 cents in the dollar on the unimproved capital value of all rateable land to which the overall plan applies to fund the cost of the State Government Precept Charge, research and on-ground works. B, the overall plan for the State Government Precept Special Rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of the State Government Precept for the wild dog barrier fence, pest and weed research and on-ground works. B, the rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as Category 39 rural greater than or equal to 80 hectares in the 2021-22 financial year. C, the estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $408,204. The State Government Precept Special Rate will levy an estimated $408,204 towards the total estimated cost of carrying out the activity. D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specially benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide maintenance and renewal of the wild dog barrier fence and pest and weed research, including on-ground works, which is provided by the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, DAF, in brackets, so as to improve the agricultural activities on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders.
Is that all we need? Cover that? Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item 3.12, Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge, as detailed in the table below, on all rateable land serviced by the Rural Fires Brigades for Amby, Mungalala, Yulbar and Orange Hill, to contribute to the operational cost of firefighting and the ongoing provisions and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the Rural Fire Brigades as follows. As Rural Fire Brigade Amby $74.58, Mungalala $74.58, Yilbar $74.58, Orange Hill $50. 2. The overall plan for the Rural Fire Brigade special charge is as follows. A. The service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is to contribute to the operational costs of firefighting and the ongoing provisions and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the rural fire brigades that operate throughout the areas of Amby, Mungalala, Yilbar and Orange Hill. B. The rateable land to which the plan applies is all rateable land defined by Queensland Fire and Emergency Services, QFES, Rural Fire Service, as being served with each rural fire brigade boundary as identified in the QFES administrative map for each brigade. C. The estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $20,504. D. The estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. 3. The rateable land or its occupier specially benefit from the service, facility or activity funded by the special charge because these local rural fire brigade units respond to emergency fire calls.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Item number 3.13, levy and payment of rates and charges 2021-2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that one pursuant to section 107 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and section 114 of the Local Fire and Emergency Services Act 1990, councillors' rates and charges and the state government's emergency management fire and rescue levy be levied for half a year, 1 July 2021 to the 31 December 2021, in August/September 2021, and for the half year 1 January 2022 to 30 June 2022 in February/March 2022. 2. Pursuant to section 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, that council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management, fire and rescue levy be paid within 30 clear days of the issue of the rate notice.
There was another word that you inserted,
Oh,
Councillor.
sorry.
Local, but that doesn't need to be there. If you're happy just to
Just to
defer
take-
to
yeah.
the screen.
Yes,
Yep.
thank you. Sorry.
Okay, we have a seconder. Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Righto, so we're moving on to 202, thank you. 314, total value of change in rates and utility charges. Do we have a mover? Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council adopt the following pursuant of section 169 in brackets 6 and 169(7) in brackets, the local government regulation of 2012, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges, utility charges, and budgeted be levied for the 2020-21-22 financial year compared with the rates and unity charges levied in the previous budget 2020-2021 financial year is 0.64% for the purpose of calculating any discounts and rebates are excluded.
Calculation in number 2.
Yeah. And utility.
For the
not
purpose
and
of
not
calculation.
You said utility instead of utility.
Yeah, fix it.
He corrected that.
No,
For the second time.
Second time.
Well, not the second time, maybe.
Utility, I did say Unity.
So you're happy to defer to what's on the screen?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on to 315, page 206. 206. 315, discount on rates 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rates made and levied shall be subject to a discount of the percentage set out in table below. If paid within the discount period of 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice, provided that A, all of the aforementioned rates and charges are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice. B, all other rates and charges appearing on the rate notice that are not subject to a discount are paid within 30 days after the date of issue of the rate notice. And C, all other overdue rates and charges relating to the rateable assessment are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice.
So do you think we need to say the 5% or
You want me to say that
what do you think?
He did.
the discount, should I have just said that because it's one line?
No, I just wondered whether we should just clarify it.
Well, I'm happy to go with what's on the screen then.
Righto, we have a seconder?
Discount on differential general rates 5%.
Yeah, so you're happy with
Yeah, I'm
5%?
happy. Discount of differential generates at 5%.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Edwards, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on. Now, item 316 on 212 is interest on all overdue rates and charges for 2021-2022. Councillor Edwards.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the level of interest is set as 1, compound interest on daily rests at the rate per annum set out in the table below, which says interest on all overdue rates and charges 4%. 2, that makes sense. What does that say? It's set as, and is to be charged on all overdue rates or charges. Council has determined that rates or charges will be determined as overdue for the charging of interest if they remain unpaid after 60 days from the due date of the relevant rate notice.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, page 217, thank you. 3.17, significant business activity assessment 2021-22. Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that the result of the significant business activity assessment be received, noting that no further action is required.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Ladbroke. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. So now we're moving on to 318, Code of Competitive Conduct, 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'll move the council not apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to the following business activities for 2021-22. Building certifying activity, quarry operations, sale yard operations, waste management, airport operations, water and sewerage services, gas operations, plant services, road operations, mainly RMPC. Given the level of expenditure in these business activities and the little or no competition for the services provision, council sees no public benefit in applying the Code of Competitive Conduct at this time.
We have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Okay, moving on to item 319, page 229, adoption of the annual operational plan 2021-22. Do we have a mover? Councillor Edwards.
I'll move that pursuant to section 104, 5A5 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 174 and 175 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopt the annual operational plan for 2021-22 as contained in the integrated document with the inclusion of our projects 2021-22 from the adopted budget for each of the relevant functions with the cost estimates, and our finances from the adopted budget for each of the relevant functions with comparatives for 2018-19, 2019-20, 2020-21, quarter 4 review, 2021-22 cost and funding estimates, 2021-22 reduced budget.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Is there any further business, councillors, with the budget meeting?
Just on behalf of, a few people already commented, but a big massive thank you to Madam CEO and the directors and the staff. I know I'd hate to be doing it. Yeah, wonderful effort, and thank you for your time. I know you hopefully have a few RDOs up your sleeve.
Thank you, Councillor Baker.
Or there might be a few more bookings at the Royal.
I too would like to thank all of the staff for their efforts too.
Thank you very much. I'd just also like to specifically acknowledge Kelly through all of the minutes of the various special meetings. Sophie's role is not just one of the videoing. Sophie has been behind the design of all of the corporate documents, and there's been a sequence of those in a very short space of time. So I'd like to extend my congratulations to Sophie and her efforts, and particularly to Director Sharon, Deputy CEO and Deputy Director, to Cindy and Claire, who've led the financial side of things. So everyone in this room today has contributed to the very big project that is the operational plan and budget. So to all of the senior management team as well who are not in the room, I'd also like to acknowledge their efforts, because it is one very, very big team effort. And on behalf of the CEO as well, I'd just like to extend my congratulations and appreciation to all of their efforts. So, I'd also like to thank the councillors who've mentioned that as well. Appreciate all of those sentiments.
Yeah, I too would also like to thank all the staff and the big effort, and look forward to seeing what we can do in the future to not make it so many hours for everyone. It's a huge undertaking.
I did say Director Sharon, didn't I? Yes. Just checking. I've lost. Yeah. I need to count, make sure I had everyone.
Okay, any further business, councillors? It's a different meeting. Okay.
You've got to do them, that's right.
Yeah. So I'll close the budget meeting at 6:40 PM. Thank you for your attendance, councillors.